How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to our channel, Everything Jax Real Estate. In this video, we're going to be going over the market update report for March of 2024 for the Jacksonville Beaches and Jacksonville Southside area. And in this video, we're going to be diving into the amount of homes in the market, going under contract and selling, as well as the trends in pricing, as well as days on the market that we've seen in the past and what we believe to see moving forward into the future. As always, I'm your host. My name is Justin. I'm with the Rookeeper Home Team. And when we come back, we're going to be diving into all this great data and much more. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Before we get started on this video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notified when we post more content like this in the future. Also, as we're going through our market update report, please feel free, drop a comment in the comment section below if you have any questions on anything that I'm going over in this video, and I will make sure that we do respond to any and all questions. All right, so let's go and get started. So with the Beaches and Southside area for March, we saw some different changes, and some changes that were expected, some changes that maybe weren't necessarily as expected. And overall, starting off, we're going to look at the amount of homes that hit the market or were on the market at the end of March and how many of them were under contract. And what you're going to see here is we had 406 listings that were on the market as we left March. We also had 130 homes that actually were under contract at the end of March, which overall gave us 536 homes on the market in these areas in March. This gave us a pen to list ratio of about 24.3%. This actually was a big drop down from last month, which was around 30%. And the big piece of that was because we actually saw less homes pending, as well as additional inventory hit the market. So you may ask yourself, okay, with less homes going under contract, what does that mean for pricing? Well, what that means for pricing is we still saw the continuing trend of the most homes that were under contract and the most homes that were on the market in these areas being in that $400,000 to $600,000 price point. But even though we had less homes going under contract, we actually saw that median list price increase to as high as $750,000. Put that in perspective, we were at $699 or so at the end of February. So in the span of 1 month, we went up $50,000 in the Beaches and Southside area. A big piece of that is currently, with the way it is here in Northeast Florida, weather has been really mild this past winter. And so this has been a very active spring for the area. And therefore we've seen, even though we've seen inventory rise, we've actually seen prices rise with it. And so that kind of then leads us to the question of, well, if we're having prices rise and more inventory, aren't those contradictory? And the answer is they kind of are. But what you will see as we go further through this video is that despite those indicators being contradictory, if the home checks off enough boxes, it's still actually selling pretty quickly. Because you would assume that with this higher price and more inventory, that more homes are sitting and therefore days on market are probably increasing. We'll get further into that, but you'll be a little surprised about what we found out for this area as we go through this video. The next thing we're going to look at is this graph. So this graph is just going to measure the amount of homes that were under contract as well as the amount of homes that were still available at the end of March. And what you can see is that at most price points, there is a healthy amount of homes available compared to the amount of homes that are under contract. And what that tells us that if you're a buyer currently in the Beaches and Southside, those are the areas you want to be in, at most price points, you will have options. And because you have options, you will be able to kind of pick and choose which house you want, other than if it's one of those that tends to relate to a majority of the audience, which would therefore sometimes lead to multiple offers or sometimes even highest and best offers from the onset. However, for most homes, as you can see with this graph, you will have at different price points, plenty of options to choose from. And so even though it's still a seller's market, it's not that hyper seller's market anymore. And as a buyer, you have that ability to negotiate a little bit more and be able to get some additional concessions that you may not have seen in previous years. And these concessions, they are very important because whereas we assumed probably across the board that we would see some sort of rate decline by the time we got to April, which is when this video is being recorded. We have not seen those yet. And even the next line of thinking, which was maybe May or even June, is still not even a guarantee, not even for June. So the longer that these rates stay higher, the more willing sellers will be to offer up concessions for most sellers to be able to help satisfy the buyer's needs in today's ever-changing market. Next item we're going to look at is we're going to look at the total number of contracts that sold in the last 6 months. And what we see is that there were 725 contracts that sold in the last 6 months. This is an increase from last month, and this is something that I had actually touched on in previous videos. And we're going to probably continue to see these numbers rise, which in this case, this did rise from February, because we're starting to lose some of those end of year data from last year, such as August, September, October, November, as we'll see in future months and future market updates. And the reason I bring that up is because those were very atypical months for real estate. Seasonality alone does tend to slow things down for those months, but because we also saw rates hit in the 7s and even 8s, it was extremely slow during that time, and therefore there was less home selling. And as we started to lose that data and we started to get more of this February and March and April and in the future May data, that's going to start propping these contracts that closed much higher. What that means for price, even though we are seeing more contracts closed when we look at a 6-month window, 6-month look back, price is actually staying pretty steady. So even though list prices have increased, now as high as $750 for the area, the closed median price for the past 6 months is still only $550,000. Put that in perspective, it was $549 and some change last month, so it's not really much of a change at all from last month to this month. It's stayed fairly stagnant. One thing that we'll have to start taking a look on in future videos is, does that number still stay stagnant, or do we start to see that start to increase more now that those list prices, those prices that homes are going to the market for, are higher than they have been? My gut tells me that we are going to see that sold price point go up. How much? We'll find out. But we are going to start probably seeing that number come up as we start to get more data in future months. What it means for you as a buyer right now is it means that even though list prices are going up, you still can get a very good price for a house in this area. And that there's a healthy gap between what homes are being listed at and what they're being sold at, which tells us sellers are motivated to work with the buyer to get the home sold. And if you're a seller, what this means is, yes, you can put your home on the market for top dollar, but you have to be understanding that depending on your house and depending on, again, location, condition, and obviously price, as we're discussing, those 3 factors will determine what your final sales price will be, and it may not be as close to that initial list price of, in this case, $750 is what the median is for the area. So just something to keep in mind. We also saw there was 169 homes that failed to sell in the past 6 months. This is actually a reduction, and we're probably going to keep seeing this reduction occur. How much? Probably not much, but probably to some degree some, because we're starting to go into a time of the year here in Northeast Florida where most homes do not fail to sell unless a seller obviously just no longer needs to sell anymore or has to sell. So for most sellers who are actively looking to sell their home currently, you're not going to have too many failures occur because it is a little bit of a busier time in the year for buyers and sellers due to seasonality trends. We're next going to look at the days on market for actives, solds in the last 6 months, and solds in the last month. And what we're going to see is for the days on market for the active listings that are currently on the market, that median days on market is 38 days. That is 2 days more than what we saw last month. What that tells us is that homes are across the board, for the most part, sitting. It means that they are not getting offers and going under contract, which means typically one of 2 things. Either one, sellers may have their home priced a little bit higher than where they need it to be to get a ready, willing, able buyer to put an offer in. Or 2, the condition of the home may not match the price that the seller is looking to get. Those 2 items do kind of work hand in hand. They do kind of feed off of each other, but ultimately it is very interesting to see the days on market increase and the price of homes across the board increase. Because you would assume that if the days on market's going up, the median list price would be coming down. But here's why that's not the case. When we look at the last 30 days of data, what we find is that the median sold price was $590,000. The median days on market was 11 days on market. So what that tells us is even though we're seeing inventory rise, even though we're seeing, for the most part, active homes sitting longer, what we're also seeing is that the good ones, that the ones that are selling, are actually selling for a higher price now than they were in the span of a 6-month window, and they're selling much, much quicker. Because at 11 days, what you actually find is that is actually a positive indicator for demand. And what that means is that there's more buyers looking right this second in the area, and that they are putting contracts on homes for the homes that are well worth it. And so, like I mentioned, a lot of that is due to seasonality. And I think a lot of that is also due to some different market factors, with the fact that you do have sellers and builders offering up different concessions to make their homes more attractive to a buyer. So if you're looking to sell your home right now and you're in the Beaches or the Southside area, you may really want to consider offering up some sort of concession to a buyer, because in today's world, you do have some competition that you may not have had a couple years ago. And it's not to say you can't get the price you want, but you have to be willing to give up something else to get that price. And if you're a buyer, it means that you want to make sure you're working with the right realtor to help find the homes that have those concessions, or to find the right homes that a seller will be willing to give you those concessions to make sure that it fits your wants and your needs for you and your family. Now, we also see that the list to sales ratio for the area was 97.3%, which again just highlights what I've just been discussing, which is the fact that sellers are giving up a little more right now to get their home sold, but they're still getting much, much more now than they were over the last 6 months as a whole. Again, 590 is a good step up from 550. And that 590 median sold price probably is a bit of a reason why you are seeing that median list price still increase despite the increase in inventory. And again, to highlight the increase of inventory, when we look at the absorption rate over in the far right, the absorption rate for the last 6 months was 3.4 months of inventory. So inventory has been on the steady rise. If someone currently is telling you that inventory is not rising, make sure you ask them, are you sure? And if they're referring to a specific neighborhood, yeah, certain neighborhoods may not be seeing an increase in inventory, but across the board for the Beaches and Southside, we are seeing more inventory now than we have seen really ever since COVID started. And so with this increase in inventory, it provides a great opportunity for buyers and sellers in today's market to be able to get certain things, such as price for sellers, or for buyers, concessions, to fit their wants and their needs. So even though we're seeing more inventory and rates not coming down yet, still is a great time to buy, because at some point when rates do come down, inventory might come down too, because guess what? Buyer demand's only going to go up with lower rates. It's just, if you think about it, it just makes sense. So that being said, we are going to look at a couple other items. The median sold price, as you can see, for February and March stayed pretty consistent. The median days on market for February and March, we did see days on market come down in March for, when you're looking at a 6-month window. Obviously, April's data is very inconclusive. It's very new. There's not really going to be any data here to go off of, even though you see these on the graphs. But again, just kind of reiterates what I've recently discussed. And then lastly, as always, like to end off with this table. And this table, again, is just going to show us a lot of the same things that we've already discussed, but in a different format. And what it pretty much tells us is, ultimately, if you're looking for a home under $600,000, you're still going to have a little bit lower inventory. Red's not good if you're a buyer and you're watching this video. If you're a seller, red's what you want to see. However, on the flip side, when you get to these higher price points, you're seeing those teals and those greens and those yellows. Now it's flipped. As a buyer, you're loving that. That means that you have options. As a seller, it doesn't mean you can't get top dollar. It just means you got to be able to give something else up, such as concessions. So you have to be willing to compromise to get your home sold. All in all though, the market is very healthy currently here in Northeast Florida, specifically the Beaches and Southside area. And ultimately there is a great timing here if you are looking to buy or sell, because we are going into that spring and summer window, and therefore demand should increase as we go into summer. Supply may increase as well. But all in all, it's a great area to live. And with that being said, if you liked this video, definitely, like I said, please shoot us a like. Feel free, please subscribe to our channel and ring that bell so you get notified I post more content like this. But also, if you have any questions about anything we went over and you want to have a face-to-face with me or a Zoom call to have a video call to go over any of those questions, I'm always about bringing them on. So in the contact information, in the description below in the video is my contact information. Feel free to set the time on my calendar for us to meet face-to-face or through Zoom to go over any and all questions you and your family may have, whether if you're looking to move to the area, invest in the area, or if you're just curious about what Jacksonville, Florida has to offer, specifically in this case, the Beaches and Southside areas. And with that being said, I will see you guys again in the next video and talk to you guys more soon.